Now let's imagine using a lever to lift an object. So let's draw the fulcrum here, and then draw the lever resting across the fulcrum. And we're going to imagine two forces acting down on the lever. We'll call this one over here F1 and this one over here F2. Now note that these forces act at different distances, and that's pretty typical. The distance from the fulcrum to F1, we might call that distance D1, and the distance from the fulcrum to F2, we might call that D2, and they're different distances. The two forces, F1 and F2, can balance this lever, and if you have a large distance on one side, like D1 here, then you can balance, you can use a small force on that side to balance a much larger force on the other side. And that's what makes a lever useful. You can have a small force on one side balancing a large force on the other. Or another way to say it is that you can get something done with only a small force on one side because you make use of the large distance, what we would call a large lever arm. You can actually build a simple lever that can demonstrate this with ordinary household objects. If you take a ruler, imagine a stiff ruler, and you rest it across a pencil. So let's put a pencil here. And the eraser, the pencil is back here. Well, close enough. Okay, there's a pencil, and the ruler's resting off center. It's longer on one side than on the other, like our lever in this diagram. And you can put some coins on here. So imagine stacking up some pennies on one side and put some pennies on the other end. So each stack of pennies exerts a weight downward force. And you can see this happen. You can use a smaller stack of pennies here that will exert a smaller downward force, and a larger stack of pennies on the other side exerting a larger downward force. And the smaller force on the right can balance the larger force on the left because the smaller force, even though it's smaller, acts at a much larger distance. And you should recognize that the essential aspects of these two pictures are the same. This one up top is more of a technical diagram, while this one on the bottom is more of an illustration. But the main idea in both illustrations is the same.